Hi, good evening, class. It's good to have you guys back. Good to see that everyone's in good spirits. And today, let's go over, first of all, a little review what we did these last few classes. We were reading House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. And if you remember, we are going to start today our writing exercise. You're going to write a short story. We're going to get going today. Don't get overwhelmed. It's a long process, but we're going to take it step by step. And let me first get us started, kick it off with my own story. Moving to a Hispanic neighborhood, Boyle Heights, just east of downtown LA, and being the only gringo in the neighborhood when I first moved in. So, yeah, let me just say that it was a little bit of an adjustment because I was wearing my Giants hat because I'm from the north area of California. I'm a Giants fan, and it's a Dodgers neighborhood. So I was getting a lot of stink eye glares, and it was hard for me to start conversations with my neighbors. So I decided to take a different approach, and I sat out on the stoop of my building with a chess set, some chips, some salsa, some pico de gallo, and I started talking to people that were just rolling by or had nothing else to do and struck up a chess game or just ate some chips. And pretty soon I got to learn about everyone in the neighborhood or the people that were willing to sit and spend time with me. And I found out about Sarah, who's an athlete training for a marathon, and about Juan Carlos, who likes to skateboard. And I also found out about Telma, who has started her own cleaning business and her family. So it was a wonderful experience. At first it was a little bit of being thrown in an ice bath, but after a while I got to get a little bit more rooted in the neighborhood. So that's just my one experience that I'm sharing with you, and I want you now to take out your book, House on Mango Street. I want you to read through your notes and the reading logs that you did, and while you're reading through them, just take 5 minutes. I want you to think of your own experience growing up in your neighborhood and maybe a story about a time or a day or a few days or a few weeks that changed you in a significant way. So it can be, for example, I'm just throwing these out there, so get your pumps primed. Think about maybe, for example, the time that a family member took you to a Dodgers game, and maybe your uncle or your dad or your mom taught you some lesson about life, or it really changed your way of looking at baseball and suddenly you want to get into sports. Or maybe you met a new friend who just moved to the neighborhood and they introduced you to maybe skateboarding. You've been playing soccer all your life and now you're skateboarding and you're listening to new music, or you picked up an instrument, something like that. Or it can even be a late night conversation you had with your tia because you're upset about a friend who backstabbed you at school, and she gives you a new perspective on life and how to handle those things. So these are just some of the ideas that you might have as you're reading through the notes that you did on the book. Take 5 minutes, and then we're going to start the next step of the writing process. All right, class, we're back. Great. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to ask one of you who feels comfortable sharing their story, and I want you to first take a minute and look over your notes, what you wrote down about a moment in your life, in your neighborhood growing up that changed you, and really think about who might want to hear your story. What kind of reader would want to read this short story that you're going to write? And just take a minute, take one minute, just think of that, and then I want to hear from some of the students. Okay. Yes, okay, so raise your hand if you feel comfortable sharing your story and telling us about who you think might want to hear your story, an audience for your short story. Okay, Francesca. Yes, go ahead, tell us. Okay, all right. So tell us first a little bit about the story you're going to tell us, the short story. All right, okay. So your father, your dad, was working in Montebello on a house, and he fell off the roof, and he was in the hospital for over a month. Okay, and yeah, tell us about what how it changed you. Yeah, okay. All right, so you felt that after that, how fragile your dad's life was. You'd always thought of him as a Superman, and now you saw him in the hospital, seriously injured, and how did that affect you? Okay, so you thought about how valuable the time is you have with your dad, because you never know what's going to happen. That's a great story. All right, so we got to think about who's going to want to hear that story. Yeah, okay, so people that, have fathers, that are young, maybe your age, yeah, of course, they would want to hear that story. Let's challenge ourselves, though, okay? I'm writing this on the board, okay? So young Hispanic kids, teenagers in high school like you who want to hear about, who have fathers, maybe fathers who work in dangerous jobs. Maybe they do construction on the highways, or operate high-speed trains. So let's write that, and let's challenge ourselves. What about, let's reach out to a larger audience, maybe single-parent homes where they have only their mother. How would you reach out to that person, that teenager, and they can read your story and really connect with it? Okay, so tell us some of your ideas. Okay, yeah. All right. Yes, definitely. Okay, so you can definitely say that even if it's a mother that's raising them, it's a parent, and they feel that that parent is somewhat invincible, right? And so any kind of dangerous thing that could happen to their parents, this is an eye-opener, right? About even when you're, like you were saying, when your dad at Cinco de Mayo cracks those terrible jokes in front of the family and you feel embarrassed, even that is something you have to cherish because you have that time with your father. Okay, so that's great. So let's think about ordering the paragraphs, what you're gonna say, not just in the order of how it happened, but how you're going to angle what you're saying so that you can also talk to young teenagers with mothers only raising them. Okay, all right. Great. Okay, so we got that done. Now, class, we just went through an example on the board with Francesca and her story. I want you to get into your pairs and go back and forth with your partner, and you do what I just did with Francesca, and you work out how you're going to connect with your audience, who your audience is, just in the way that we just did with Francesca. Okay. All right, you had now almost 15 minutes. It's good to see that you guys are no one's falling asleep here. Everyone's still excited to share their stories. And now I just want us to take out our pre-write journals. Everyone take out your own pre-write journal, and now you're going to do it on your own. And I'm going to circle around the class like I just did. I'm going to be helping you one-on-one, and when you're finished, you're going to turn the assessment, the pre-write journal in, and I will be assessing it tonight, writing feedback notes, and then we'll go on to the next step of the writing process. Sound good? All right, let's begin.